Hi, I'm Nick Ross for iTWire. I'm with Charles Matthews, who's the SVP for Strategy and Partnerships for ALE's Networks Business Division. Hello.
Hi, Nick.
So who are you and what is your role?
I'm Charles Matthews. I run strategy and strategic partnerships for the Network Business Division at ALE. I'm based in the United States, but I have a global view. So looking at where do we want to grow in networks in the world? So looking at particular growth markets for us, helping to develop a strategy to help penetrate them from a network positioning, promotion point of view, working with our sales teams to help grow the business, which verticals we can be strong in. So kind of building that strategy at the global level and at local level. And then with some of our key technology and go-to-market partnerships, I take the lead for the network business division to drive those.
Okay. So which non-traditional areas is ALE focusing on and why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so of course we do a lot in traditional and the nuts and bolts of networking, switches and routers and network management. Where we're pushing on the non-traditional basis is focusing more and more on becoming an IoT connectivity specialist. So the Internet of Things, this is a big focus for us. So we already have a role in helping those devices connect into the network, get them on the network, but that's not enough for just networks. We need to be able to, they're all throwing off all kinds of great data. So we have to make sure it's cleanly moving through the network up to the software level, because that's really where the interesting business outcomes are happening. So we're an enabler of good business information, good business outcomes for our customers. So we really just focus on, it ends up having a software outcome. So asset tracking with some of our verticals. How can I find all these IoT devices within my business? We develop apps to do that, connecting with our traditional network. That's one area. Then anything around location-based services. So the asset tracking, geofencing, being able to find certain people or devices in a particular fenced-off geographical area within a network, and then perhaps send messages there for retail purposes, or to remind a doctor or nurse that you're near a wash basin, time to wash your hands beforehand. So really focusing on use cases within our key verticals, developing apps around that with our partners, because the network is it's enabler of these business outcomes. We get that, and we're building on top of the network to improve the customer experience for our customers.
Excellent. And how are Australian companies pushing ahead with their digital transformation?
I would say Australia is doing a good job at digital transformation. They're investing for the future. Coming out of, I think for all of us, the last few years of COVID, coming out of that, we've realized a few things. For technology in general, a lot of companies that may have struggled with going remote, having all of their devices connected and having people connected well, if there was a problem with it, they knew it. All their problems were exposed. And I think Australia was aware of that, is super careful with the lockdown and did a really good job at it. And therefore, I think probably systematically understood its technology debt well. So coming out of it the past couple of years in particular, we've seen our Australian customers invest in the core of their network because they needed all that throughput to be able to enable out at the branch level. Healthcare were quite strong, so there's move towards electronic records, 4K, even 16K imaging needing to move up there. So they know they need the pipes there, but then also focusing on customer experience. Well, we're starting to do some proof of concepts out there in the field to help our Australian customers move ahead with digital transformation, and it's starting to pick up. It's starting to pick up speed. There's probably some parts of the world that might be moving a little bit faster. US, okay, that's probably one of them. Some parts of Asia, but I think Australia is kind of right in that, right just on that cusp of really moving forward with some of our more innovative solutions.
And what factors are impacting upon the ALE's business conditions here and internationally?
Yeah, so with particularly for networks business of ALE, It's hard to talk about our business without talking about supply chain. There's a big hardware component of our business, so we've been impacted from a supply chain point of view. So most of this is due to limited supply of semiconductors, and that being the first part of building out the boards, the switches, the routers, and software that goes on top of that. So that's probably been a big piece of it. I'd say ALE's done quite well in this area. We've net probably one customers. I mean, we're growing ahead of market. So just doing the math, I would say we've done a good job with supply chain. And then just the availability of money supply, credit crunches and whatnot. A lot of parts of the world, Australia being one of them, there was stimulus pumped into the economy. So businesses have that. And I think that's driving a lot of the investment that we see going on now. We're starting to see, a little bit of constriction in credit. So I think we'll see how that plays out. That's a factor out there that we're monitoring on. So far for this year, we're still continuing to grow well. So at least as a priority for investment, networks seem to be high on the list for our customers.
And in terms of ALE's networking business specifically, why would partners want to work with ALE?
Yeah, it's a great question because we know there's competition out there. I'd say there's a few different areas that differentiate us. One is our hardened portfolio. We've got a particular strength with working with Ethernet switches in harsh environments. So whether it's in a subway system, out on the highways, in a really humid area, perhaps the jungles in Southeast Asia, whatnot. So these really difficult conditions, we do a great job at building ruggedized products that also have the same smarts as something you would see in a four-wall building. No one else does it quite as well as ALE in this area. So that's one. We have technologies around IoT in general that make endpoint management, the discovery, the identification, and the securing of those devices. We've got a technology called shortest path bridging that makes IoT management easier to do than other technologies. There's only one other vendor out there that's doing this in addition to us, so we're different that way. And I could go on and on with this, but I'll just mention one more. And this is probably, it's a new offering for us, network as a service. We hear a lot about as a service this, as a service that, and a lot of times they're just kind of lease arrangements more than anything, but we're one of the few vendors out there, there's probably just 2 or 3 out there like us, that's a true OPEX network as a service, where there's just a very low entry point to get in. You get all the networking equipment, you pay use fees on a monthly, quarterly basis thereafter, and you just run with your network. It's particularly helpful in an environment where budgets may be constrained, which is not something we've been used to lately. But as I'm the strategy guy for networks, I have to think out not just 6 months, 12 months. I have to do a 3 to 5 year plan quite regularly. So I'm thinking out in the future a little bit. So I think that these as a service offers are going to become more important as we see more constrained credit environments. We hear from the U.S. Fed and even the Fed governors here in Australia. I've been watching the news the past week. There's rates are going up. This will have implications out there, but we're ready for it. We're ready for a really strong OPEX offer.
So you partly answered some of that, but how is ALE helped the partner community in this region?
Yeah, we've done a lot of things, and we just announced something this morning, and that we're opening up a whole other area of Australia in Melbourne that we haven't been traditionally strong in. Super strong here on the East Coast, but pushing out further into Australia. So making all of our portfolio available to those partners. I mean, it was there before, but now with the sales team here, they're investing in resources there. I've had the opportunity to be here in Australia for about a week and a half, and we signed up a number of customers just yesterday. We were on the road and actually signing them up, so that's exciting to do that. The other thing is that we're providing them unique pieces of a portfolio that they wouldn't be able to get with other other partners. Hardened portfolio, I mentioned that one. They can't really, our partners can't really get that from our competitors, not the brain and the bronze together. That's unique for us. The over-the-top services with location-based services, we can provide that on our own equipment. One thing we do that's different is that we can provide it on top of our competitors' equipment too. Right. So we'll do location-based services on top of a Cisco network, on top of an HP Aruba network. We're fine. We're agnostic about it. That's just, as we say in the US, it's how we roll, right? We're flexible in how we do it. And that's a unique offering that I think many of our partners appreciate. And then finally, I'll go back to network as a service. This is a good offering, particularly for our partners out there who are looking to do a managed service offering where they have their services, their service portfolio, and they can complement it with our network as a service. It gives them one more offer in their toolkit to position with their customers. So I think they appreciate our offers, and I think we're just really easy to do business with. We tend to be very partner friendly. That's our reputation in the industry. I'm not sure if everyone in the industry can say that. We can. We've always been that way, and really been in this indirect business model and wanting to support our partners. It's truly a go-to-market that's together.
One thing I always like to ask people in these interviews is, where do you see your industry going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, well, that's a big question, and it's you
don't have to be too specific.
No, it's okay, because my boss asked me this too, so I'm just having to answer to my boss in this question. But it's a good question. It's an exciting question. So there's going to be, I hesitate to say, more of the same. There is some of that's going on right now. Some of the trends that I pointed out, we'll be building on top of that. What's going to be new and exciting is that for us, ALE, and our whole industry, we had a great year last year. It was tremendous growth in the networking industry across the board. Believe me, I keep a very close watch on our competitors. Everybody had a great year. So we know that the industry's invested in the networking infrastructure. But what's going to come next is that for us networking providers, now that we have that network infrastructure in place, what can you do with it, right? What business value is it going to provide to the customers at the other end? So I think there's going to be more and more investment in the industry, certainly for us in ALE, is to provide those over-the-top services like the asset-based tracking or other IoT use cases out there for perhaps HVAC, heating and refrigeration, irrigation systems in residential or universities, or wherever you would need irrigation. So more and more monitoring of these IoT devices, the network's providing that intelligence, building customized applications for our customers out there to really deliver business value. So I think it's going to be these over-the-top services. And then finally, I would just say more and more OpEx offers, more and more network as a service. Certainly our competitors are pushing this. We're pushing it, and I think there's going to be more and more appetite from customers to buy in an OpEx type style. I'm not an economist, but I mean, it's not hard to see that there's probably going to be cash constraints for many of our customers at some point. So an OpEx offer where there's not as much capital outlay up front is probably going to be pretty attractive to them. And I think that we'll start to see this more catching on 3 to 5 years. To say necessity is the mother of invention. We saw that with COVID, drove a lot of technological change. I think some constrained cash will also be in this the mother of invention, and I think we'll see that with as a service offers more and more.
And thanks for that. I guess the other important thing people need to know is, how can potential partners work with you? Do you sell directly or through the channel, MSPs? How best should they do that?
Yeah, we're flexible. We're entirely indirect, and here in Australia. So when we fulfill a deal, it's going to be with a partner. We would have direct partners, distributors. So there's lots of ways to do it. The area that we're bleeding into more and more is managed service providers. I'm excited in my last week and a half here in Australia because there's been lots of interest in doing managed service. And I think that's a particular strength for the ALE offer to complement a managed service offer. So it's exciting when our partners have the capability to do either with a GNOC or a security operations center as well, to be able to provide the network service that complements that. A lot of our partners, we want them to have these added value services that can go on top of our offer, and MSPs tend to have that kind of thing. So we're excited to do that. So I guess it's a direct partnership, distributor or MSP. We're flexible.
And is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, other than that, I mean, I'm excited about our growth prospects here in Australia. As I said, we're getting up some critical mass here. We've had a solid couple of years coming out of COVID. I'm bullish particularly for 2023, as we've already off to a really good start here, and I'm excited to do more business, particularly with the partners that I see coming up. The new partners that we're looking at, we're not just adding partners just to add partners. These are partners that are strategic. They really know what they want to go after, the types of customers that they're going after, and the offer that ALE can provide to them. So I think it's both for us and our partners, we're both being strategic and selective about what we want to do together. So I'm excited to see what happens in the next 6 to 12 months, and even more excited about the next 3 to 5 years.
Brilliant. Charles Matthews, thank you very much.